The reason why philosophy is dead, so to speak, is simply because we haven't understood the brain. We haven't understood the human program in its entirety. And if we don't understand how the brain works completely when it comes to the interpretation machine and the projection machine, as I've explained before, then it doesn't actually make sense to talk about philosophy, because philosophy is just a product of the interpretation machine and of the projection machine. You could say that it's just a product of the perception machine and the interpretation machine that comes after the perception machine, and then of the projection machine that comes into activation after the interpretation machine has done its work. So before we understand all of this process, it doesn't really mean much to talk about philosophy. The only two philosophical treatises, so to speak, that still has validity is, of course, the allegory of the cave of Plato. That is the first, and perhaps even to this day, nearly the best philosophical treatise that's ever been written. Then we have Schopenhauer, who is very close to the allegory of the cave. And there are also, of course, elements of Immanuel Kant's philosophy when it comes to the categories through which we understand and perceive reality. So this is the reason why we could say that philosophy is dead, and philosophy is in a crisis or in a standstill because of this, because we haven't understood the human program. And that's why I've devoted so much of my work to the understanding and the exposition of the human program, to put that onto the arena, to the intellectual arena, into the public arena, because the human program is that which we have to understand before we can do anything else. This is, of course, also highly relevant when it comes to science, to any kind of science. You cannot really conduct true science without understanding the human program. That's just not possible, because the human program is the lens through which you discover and see and perceive the world. So it's already an instrument, the human program is an instrument through which we experience the world, and science have to understand this and take this into account when it comes to scientific treatises or scientific discourse. So this is why we can say that philosophy is, if not dead, then at least standing in a standstill, because we have to understand the human program, and that's going to happen more or less with time, because now neuroscience have come a long way of understanding a lot. So we have to understand the human program before we can talk about the validity of philosophy. Thank you.